Mhm.
Welcome to Living Limitless. Conquer shame, play your way to freedom. I'm Andrea Luzon, Legacy Liberator. Basically, I'm an explorer who guides women on a journey to reestablish authority in their life. So I put this series together to support women on that journey of reconnecting, reigniting that passion, that purpose, that power that we all have inside that we sometimes start to forget. So I just attended a retreat that was amazing, and it was hosted by our guest today, Keri Stanley. So the timing is just so perfect. Keri, tell us a little bit about yourself and welcome.
Thank you so much. And it's an honor to be here. And it was an honor to have the retreat experience with you there in person this weekend. So thank you for all of it. And I love that you were just talking about the Legacy Liberator. I think that's just an amazing name of what's inside of us that gets to be freed. And the other part of that is you were talking about the exploring. And so when I tell about my work, I have a global spiritual adventure company called Grace on Fire. And so my entire mission is helping women step into true exploration of the earth. So I do international retreats and experiences where we get to truly explore the true, bold, courageous self that is within us. And we get to connect to the earth. We get to connect to the spiritual side of us and really tap into why am I really meant to be here and who am I really am deep down inside when all the culture, all the things that have been put upon us are stripped away and we're truly just the being we were meant to be in the first place. So that is my work. And then I am a mom of twin boys that are 17. I can't believe they're already 17. And then I'm an active runner training for a marathon right now, and really just constantly in a state of what is my next level of leadership so that I can be the best to serve who I'm meant to serve. And so that in a nutshell is who I am.
Yay. And I can't wait to go on one of your trips. I know you're doing a lot that are in the United States over the next year. And
Yeah.
yet when I heard you talking to one of our cohorts,
Mhm.
Tracy was mentioning that she had been in Thailand with you. And
Yes.
I had an amazing time in Thailand. And yet at the same time, I was maybe 24 or 25. And so it was much
Yeah.
more of it was definitely, I felt very free. And yet how amazing to go with someone who's, also really tapping into guiding me back to my inner wisdom. I just, that just sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to find out
Yeah.
when
It's
when
amazing.
your next international one is. That'd be really fun.
Yeah, I'll have international ones in 2022 as well. It's just that my mastermind, we're going to do ours in the US. So
Got it.
yeah,
Got it.
they're coming.
So to be on topic with why I put this together, I really, it's like the ego in me is tempted to go straight for the joy, the freedom, and the like. Let's just bypass all of the yucky stuff. But I'm really interested to know, your leadership really inspires me, and I'd like to ask, what role do you feel shame plays in our journey back? Excuse me, in our journey back to joy, freedom, courage, playfulness. Like, how does that land with you?
Yeah. I think I love that you're like, I just want to skip over that stuff. But the truth is that is the place where the other is born. And so the real work, in my opinion, is the real work is when we can find joy and freedom, even in a place that shame exists, and we can look at it objectively and release it and realize I don't have to carry this.
Mm.
And I don't have to get rid of it in order to find my joy and freedom. So if you don't mind, can I go into a personal story
Oh,
of
I would love that. Thank you.
shame?
Yeah, that'd
Okay.
be great.
So, and I've got several because we all have different ones that come up, but one of the big pieces for me was really releasing a money shame when I started up my business. And that one was one I didn't even realize that I was carrying. So I had played the safe route for many, many years. I had a six-figure, I had a six-figure corporate job. I had all the rules around money. And so I was not a spender. I didn't take risks with money. I had a certain way that you did everything with money. Mm-hmm. And that taught me things, and that served me well. And it also didn't allow me to step into a greater opportunity of the possibility that more existed. It kept me stagnant right where I was. And so when I stepped away from my six-figure role, and I completely stepped away as the single mom, I found myself in a lot of risk. And in that risk, I ended up with a lot of debt, which I did not have before. I ended up with the business was doing really well, but because of the debt ratio, I felt like I was drowning. So even though the money was coming in from the business, it wasn't sustaining life. It wasn't sustaining the debt that was there. It wasn't sustaining any of that. And so I felt like I was in this endless cycle. And I went into foreclosure on my house. And there was a moment in that there was two critical moments. One is the month that my home was in foreclosure, and it was the home that my kids had known since it was basically built when they were 1. So it was their stability. So the mama bear in me came out and was like, do I go back to work to sustain this? But all of my shame came up because I could feel this energy of, how could you ever let yourself get into a situation like this? How could you ever be this mom? How could you ever? I remember a moment where I pulled up to the garage. Oh, and it makes me want to cry in the moment. I pulled up to the garage and I hit the button for the garage door to go up, and it wouldn't go up. And I had this sinking feeling. My kids were in the back seat, and I knew the electricity had been turned off.
Oh.
And we could not get into our house. And I just was like, what do I do in this moment? What happened with all of this was, what I started to understand was, I was letting money control me. I was attached and hooked to money in a way I didn't realize until it was gone. And from a spiritual standpoint, I was being asked to find my power, not through money, but through my internal dialogue with myself. And so I started reading books such as Love Money, Money Loves You. And I learned how to release any shame whatsoever around debt and completely reprogram the conversation I was having. I learned that I could be happy and joyous and free and create that even when I was in a lot of debt, or even when I was in foreclosure. I was actually leading a retreat in Peru while my house was in foreclosure. And it was like, how can I stand and serve at an operation at a level and truly serve and trust that everything is going to be okay? And you were at the retreat that I was talking about it this weekend, is your miracles come in the 11th hour. And what I was being asked was, can I trust to a level of running all the way through and surrendering that I will be supported? And in the 11th hour, on the last day, 4 hours before I was going to go up on auction, I was $10,000 short in cash of what I needed to save my house. And I stood in, this is still possible. And I allowed myself to unattach from the outcome. I was like, whatever happens, happens. And I'm standing in, this is possible. I sent my kids off to school. They had no idea what was going on. My brother had come and mowed my yard the day before. He had no idea what was going on. But I purposefully reached out to the people that could support me, that had been in a similar situation, that didn't hold shame or their stories around it, because they'd worked through it themselves. Wow. And so what's really important is to walk through that. And 4 hours before $10,000 in cash hit my account, I walked into the bank, I paid the money that I needed to pay, and my house was saved. And in that moment, I realized how money never has control over us, that everything is within us, that we get to walk through the 11th hours to see who we actually are. And that if I would never have had that experience, that was actually setting me up for the large company that I'm being set up to run, because I needed to know that I have the power to walk through really critical situations. Mm-hmm. And so that's where, can shame and joy coexist? It is my duty to unpack the stories that my parents, my grandparents, my lineage had just passed down to me, because I was taking risks and stepping into something they had never done before. And now my parents tell me I'm braver than they ever could have been, because they've watched me walk through those types of situations. So that's how that lands with me.
Wow. I feel like shame, when we talk about shame, money is probably in the top 3, like money, sex, and like belonging. So, yeah. So that really, wow, that story really lands with me. I think our society has we have a lot of work we could do, we could experience about releasing that attachment and control and basing our value off of money. So that's so amazing that you were able to like shift that.
Yeah.
In the 11th hour.
Yeah, exactly. It was a very pivotal moment for me. And there's so much that's with that. But I think the piece is like, the more you start surrounding yourself with the people that are actually going for it, and you get into the stories and the nuggets that are deep within them, the thing is we're not talking about it enough. We're not talking about it enough that, you know, how many people have either lost their house has gone into foreclosure, that are the really famous, successful people that you know, that you follow. They've all been there. And not only that, I remember when I said like how much debt I was in, and that was somewhere around like, you know, I had 60,000 left to pay or something like that. I had so many people be like, Keri, that's nothing. That is nothing compared to. And I had so much shame about like, oh my gosh, I should never have it. Even my son in school right now is in a finance class. And it's so interesting because the teacher is teaching them about, you know, money and how to handle money and never get yourself into this situation. And so we got to sit down and have real conversations about, yes, be responsible with it, and there's not shame around it either. And so many people are carrying around shame around a money situation or a relationship situation or some sort of situation. But the truth is I would have never discovered that I was hooked to money if I didn't allow myself to walk through that desert.
Yeah. Wow. So that's definitely a pivotal moment. Do you know when that story was embedded for you? Like I'm hearing you say that can happen in academia, that in academia, if you've taken any business classes, they're like, don't go into debt. And so, you know, I think, do you know where it originated?
I think there's, one is that my parents, just in general, my parents really never fought. And if they did, it was about money. So I had a relationship just in general with what I saw, that money causes conflict. And so I did everything I could to make sure that there wasn't conflict around money. I was always told, I was raised in a very farming community, that, you know, we just don't have a lot of money around us. And if it is, you don't talk about it. So I wasn't surrounded by people that had really healthy money mindsets. And so that was for other people. And so I would say my mom really broke the mold with the amount of money that she was creating and stepping into, but that was seen as like the limit. And so for me, stepping into so much more as possible was really breaking a mold. And I'll tell you that here's the kicker. Here's the big kicker. So in my family, the males are the entrepreneurs of the families, for where there's actually entrepreneurs, and the females are the breadwinners. So you choose, do I want to do what I love, or do I want to work and make money and support the family? It's a choice. It's not in one. And it was
Got
always the
it.
males. So the males did what they loved. And then the females had the like constant job that held down and supported the family. So I was the first female and doing it without a partner because it was after I'd gone through a divorce. So I was the first one that was breaking the mold of it could be the female and it could be all in one. It was possible. And so that story has run me all of my life, that you could not do what you loved and make great money.
Yeah, that lands. Yeah, I can definitely see that. So are there times since that time and along your entrepreneurial journey and your leadership journey,
Mhm.
take them together or separate them, but if when there are times that you feel yourself acting in ways from the past or acting in a way you're not proud or just kind of sliding out of the vibration that you intend, are
Mhm.
there processes or practices that you have that support you in raising your vibration?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and it's so funny because it was one of them that I was up against just this year. So one of them I stepped into was really taking my health to another level this year, and I lived in a family that was coupon cutters, and I was in a family that you don't spend money on food. So I still have deep inside me that when you go to the grocery store, if anything that I'm paying for is like over $1, $3, something like that, there is a part of me that's like, that's expensive, right? Like there's a
Mhm.
dialogue about that, especially when
Yeah.
it comes to food. And so one of the things that I decided this year was to like truly honor, nourish, and cherish my body in a way that I never have before. And so I noticed as I hired a functional medicine practitioner and I started really working on, what was toxic in my body. I knew that I was toxic and knew what was going on intuitively.
Mhm.
And when we started working on it and I started going down supplements and detox and all of that, I noticed the part of me that was cringing every time I was ordering supplements for my nutrition, for my detox, for all of that, because of the amount that it was. And I started going into the story of, I don't need that. It's good enough. Like I've released some, so it's good enough. I don't need to keep spending that. And every time I would go into that, and I would notice I would have really great results. And then I would notice I would start cutting back. And every time I would notice I would start cutting back and I would start cutting corners and I wouldn't be as committed as I had been, I would step back and ask myself, what is the opportunity you're being asked for now?
Hmm.
Because in my past, it was cut, cut, cut. Where do I cut?
Right.
And so my question to myself is always, where am I being asked to expand?
Yeah.
Where am I being asked to grow here? And it was like, oh, I'm being asked to expand my income. Being asked to expand my leadership. And so I can either settle for crumbs, which has been my MO in the past, or I get to stand for, I'm a healthy, vibrant, I get to be supported, which means, oh, I'm going to the next level. Therefore, I'm expanding my income to the next level because this is where I'm being required to this level of support so that I can serve in the way that I can. So
Mhm.
I always go back to that question and I lean in to that uncomfortable surrender through the edge that we talked about, that space
Mhm.
of, okay, this is uncomfortable, but I'm going to commit to the healthiest version of me. And then the money will be there because it always has been.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. So many of us are taught to cut, and then you're challenging yourself by asking, how do I get to expand in this moment instead of like recoil? Yeah,
Mhm.
that's totally landing with me.
Yeah.
Big big time. I was, this has come up since I started this series. This question has landed, and so I'm really and I just got to spend a 3-day weekend with you, so I'm
Yes.
feeling like this question is perfect. So how do you? Okay, the concept is really around inner wisdom or
Mhm.
guidance from guides or the universe or God or, whatever people are kind of tapping into. But this concept of like listening to what's calling you. How do you hear messages? And if
Mm,
someone is saying, I don't feel like I have any purpose. I don't hear any messages, but I want to learn to listen. I want
mhm,
to learn how I could tune into what else is possible. What would you guide that person to do? Are there any tips that you would have for someone who says,
mhm.
I'm jealous of people who say they get downloads from the universe because I don't know what they're talking about?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love this topic. I love this topic. And I get this question all the time because it was not a place that I had before. So when I would say I've had a deep spirituality, but it had not been fostered. I grew up very Christian, very rule based, and then I moved into spirituality, and then I incorporated my Christian beliefs into that. So now I have a very expansive view of spirituality. But what I will tell you is, in the last 5 years, I decided one is I knew when I walked away from my corporate career that if I did not put my spirituality as my number one, and I think that's the issue, is that many times it's a sidebar. It's a, when I get into crisis, I'm going to go there as like a last minute thing. I knew that if I created a spiritual foundation, otherwise I would not make it. Like I just intuitively knew I would not make it in my business. I was stepping into something that was far beyond anything that I could see, know how to create. I did not have the income when I walked away. Like I just knew that it was so much bigger than me, that spiritual foundation had to be my number one place to go. And so I decided in that time to create a spiritual relationship like I never had before. And what that meant was being committed to it, no different than being committed to my workouts. Being committed to it, that in the dark times, that's where I went first instead of going to other people. It meant laying on the bathroom floor at 2 a.m. and crying and saying, I need help. I don't know where else to go at this point. And it meant crying and screaming and being angry with God. Like I remember moments of, you told me to do this. Why are we here? Why is this not working? And what I have learned is God, spirit, universe, they can handle all of your emotions. The question is, am I willing to be real? Am I willing to ask the questions? And am I willing to ask on anything that I may hear, see, and stop questioning it? And the thing is we question it. We wonder. And so my biggest piece for anyone is commit to the teeniest, tiniest thing that you can, whether it's meditation, whether it's prayer, whether it's conversation, and it doesn't have to look like any way whatsoever. The question is, am I willing? And am I willing to have a level of discipline similar to a level of discipline that goes to the gym? That could be 5 minutes. The second piece of that is, am I willing to take action on anything that I'm hearing? You don't have to take action on everything, but am I willing to take action on anything that I'm hearing, even once a day? What is it? What is it? And when you get that tiny little thing that you hear, you experience, you get a tug. Everybody experiences and hears very, very different. For me, it's a knowing. For other people, it's a seeing. For other people, it's a hearing. I will feel it in my body, but it's a practice. It's a muscle to start taking action on whatever that is. So if you get a call so-and-so, are you willing to call so-and-so and not know why? And let it play out. If you get a uncomfortable action that you're being asked to take, are you willing to take it and trust where it's leading you? It's the tiny things. And so God's spirit universe is saying, can I trust you? Like we want to trust it. Can I trust you with the things I'm already giving you, because you're asking me for more, but you're not taking on what I'm already giving you? When I can see that
I've never heard it put quite that way. That's really landing.
And so when I can trust you with what I'm already giving you,
Mhm.
then I know you can handle more.
Right.
Because what I'm going to ask of you is going to be bigger, is going to be riskier, is going to be so much more. But you've got to be willing to play with me because I'm already giving you more. So take what I'm already giving you. You just can't see the other side. I can.
Well, I think we should end with that because I really, yeah, I appreciate that. So not only committing to a practice, and then you're kind of practicing the muscle of the listening just by having some kind of sitting still, or maybe it's a walk in the woods where you don't listen to your iPod, something like that. But then, so then you're committing to it, you're listening, and then you are actually following the little guidances that you get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And perfect example. I'll give you just a really perfect example from today for me. So you were at the retreat. You heard me talk about that. I was really feeling that there was this in-between program for some of the participants that I felt like would be divinely guided. And that's what was needed. And I was feeling it. For me, it was meditating, praying over it. What's the next piece there? And I had thought that the name of it got to be Navigate. And so today there was so much that was dropping in. I was like, today I feel like there's pieces that I want to send out to those of you that were in the room. And right before this call, I was doing a client call. And as I was doing the client call, twice in the conversation, she said, what I want to talk about is how do I navigate this situation? What I want to talk about is how do I navigate? And I felt the tug that said, yes, you're on track, release, navigate.
Wow. I just
So
got
that's
goosebumps.
that's how it showed up for
Mhm.
me, was in that way of confirmation, move. And so now it's up to me to move.
Right.
So
Instead
I
of
get,
sitting on it and not listening to that
yeah,
impulse.
yeah. And not having to have all of it, but I've got enough that I can move on. So move.
Right.
So you'll see that thrown out today. So yeah,
Yes. I'm looking
that's
forward to that.
a
Yeah,
perfect example.
that is a perfect example of how
Mhm.
things can be just uttered by a person that you're talking to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, so you have you have Explore, which is a 7 week, and then
Mhm.
this Navigate is the kind of going to be an added piece. And then
Mhm.
Ignite is going to be a 12-month program that starts in
Yeah.
January,
Yeah. Yeah. And
including the adventures that you were talking about.
yeah.
So far stateside, but
Yes, those will be stateside.
yeah.
Some of them have been international in the past, but those will be stateside just based off of what's going on, in the world right now.
Yes.
But I still will have international adventures this year as well. So yeah, I'm super excited. Everything that I do, I'm a big believer of. I'm a big believer of in-person experiences. I'm a big believer of deep dives. I'm not a conference room PowerPoint type of girl. I'm the like get into the earth, hang on the trees, play with the monkeys, play with the elephants. Go Sedona. I do a lot of work, just like out on the rocks, those types of things. So even my virtual experiences are interactive, have an adventure component, those types of things, because I believe that we don't need to be talked at anymore. There's enough information out there. And somebody was telling me the other day that one of the experiences that I bring to the table is instead of hearing about God, about the universe, it's you get to experience it as a feeling. And that's truly what it is. It's a verb. It is an experience. And you can't get it until you feel it, because that's where all your wisdom is. So everything that I teach is allowing you to feel and experience something so you can start trusting what doesn't make sense in your logical mind.
Yeah. That is beautiful. And that's really landing, because I know a couple of coaches that have come out that I've experienced part of their work, and it did feel I'm noticing I'm gravitating towards like breakout rooms, and let's practice something, like let's put something actually into ourselves and into the world, instead of kind of just discussing a concept.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people ask me, what's your favorite strategy to implement? And I'm like, God's strategy. Like whatever comes in, I implement. And that's what's worked for me the best. And honestly, it happens on the trail in a mountain by the ocean, hanging out of a tree in local Kansas City. That's where it happens. And so I give the space for the miracles and the divine downloads to come in.
Hmm. Wow. And that is making me think of that you have a gift for our audience that you were talking about. And so I'd tell us what it is. And
Yeah.
I think what we might do is we might send an email to each of our subscribers at the end of the series, so they might get it. So it may be on this page, or it may be coming to you more personally. But tell us a little bit about what you're sharing, Keri.
Yeah, you bet. So I'm a big believer in co-creating with the universe. And so I have a program that I created. It's my most asked for system that is manifest your best year yet, because I believe when we are intentional about what we want to create, we're intentional about what we want to manifest, and we're doing it in a way that we are authentically aligned, then we can create anything we want. So I am a big believer of throwing away your to-do lists. I'm a big believer in intentional based creation. And so I walk you through a process. It's a 10-day course, and you get an assignment every single day. And it is about blowing up your box. It is about getting intentional on what's the feeling and the alignment that I want to create for this coming year in a way that you've not experienced before. You create your word of the year and you align a year around that. And then you can build an action plan into that backwards. And so I walk you through a process that has you really go outside the confines of goal setting and what's possible, and really has you step into authentically, what is my soul asking for this year? And then how do I set up processes around that to create it? So it's 10 days for you to walk through that and set that up. And now is a perfect time of year to do that. So
Absolutely. Yes.
yeah.
We're releasing this in November. So yes.
Yeah.
Perfect
So
time to look into the new year.
Yeah. So it's a course people can buy. It's $197 to buy it right now. And I'm just giving it to you guys for free to go through it and set your year up and walk yourself through that process, and then go from there. Manifest the best year you've ever had.
Ever. Yes. Wow. May this be your best year yet.
Mm-hmm.
Outstanding. So I'm really just so jazzed that you've been able to step in here into this container with us, Keri. I just, ever since I came across your leadership, your voice, your message, I just thought, this woman is amazing. And I'm an adventurist at heart as well, like to be enthusiastic adventurist. And yet at the same time, you also live in my town.
Yes, I know. When we found out and that's the way that God and the universe works, is like we were on something virtually, whereas people all over the globe, and we ended up in a Zoom room together, and we literally are practically neighbors.
Yes, that was really wild for me to be in a little breakout room in a virtual environment and to hear that you live like 30 miles away. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
So cool.
So we get to keep doing made some hikes and things.
Yes.
Climbing of trees, playing with horses.
Absolutely.
All the things. So thank you, Keri, very much for stepping in and sharing your wisdom. Everyone who's watching, make sure to find that link for Keri's gift, because that will go back up to its normal price, but she's offering it to you, and what perfect timing. So thank you, everyone. I'm Andrea Luzon, Legacy Liberator. You have been here with us, living limitless, conquering shame, and playing your way to freedom. We'll see you next time.